And we're live. So welcome everybody. Brian White from MyTeslaWeekend and we've been co-hosting this live stream every Wednesday. So today's topic that we think is going to be kind of fun is to review all the different news that's been happening about Tesla that's important to Tesla. There's quite a bit, Brian. I'm going to go through my list, but before we do that, why don't you say hello? Hello.
I'm here. I've got a somewhere here it is. I had a second window playing us and it created an echo. So just
Yeah,
give me just 1 second here. And and yeah, we are doing great work is what we're doing.
we're doing great work. Okay,
Is it
let me go.
live? I can't tell.
It's clearly live, Brian. Okay, so let me
Yes.
go through my
Yes.
list, and there's going to be many, many more. But these are the news that's just happened in the very recently, last 2 weeks or so, and there's so much here. So let's go. First of all, Tesla won the lawsuit. They were being sued for FSD. You and I covered that. GM Cruise is now recalling their vehicles. There's a confirmation that Tesla Model 3, Model Y is going to be the price hikes in China by tomorrow, by Thursday night. Uh, a while back now, it feels like forever. BP partnered with Tesla to roll out superchargers in their, kind of said $100 million worth of superchargers across the US. Apparently, new news now is that the Indian Commerce Ministry is going to have a meeting with Elon very soon. I don't know if you know this, Brian, but Tesla's created a holding company in Spain. They just did that very recently. Elon was in Giga Berlin, and he announced that Germany is going to be a site to produce the $25,000 car. Giga Shanghai, they confirm now that every 30 seconds there's a car coming out of the production lines. And of course, there's massive news about Grok and how it could help with Tesla bots and so forth. That's just my quick list. There's probably more. If I missed any, please share, guys, in the audience. But let's go through some of this. What's your thinking?
Well, which one do you want to start with? We've got so many choices.
Well, I mean, there's some that are more important than others, and I don't know which ones are more important. I think maybe Grok, the
Well,
25,000 car in Germany, the Giga
sure.
Shanghai
Let's start
news.
with an easy one. Cruise being out the door. They had said we're going 20,000 miles between interventions, and now we know that that may have been off by 1,000x. So that's not good. That's not having digital Sherpas for each car is not necessarily a bad approach, but it is when you're telling your investors and regulators that these are actually doing the jobs that it seems like they're doing. And that's not good. I am pretty sure that being off by 1,000x is the sort of thing that will shake investors a bit. And now we know why, when they lost their permit to operate in California, that they also pulled operations in Phoenix and Austin. Because yeah, it's tough. It's
And they're
tough.
actually
I
recalling those vehicles at this point. So what you're
fondly.
explaining to me is for me to understand this, right? They call it level 4. You think that you can hail a robotaxi in these cities, and it looks like it's going really well. What it turned out is that there's humans that are overseeing the actual drive, and every 2 to 5 miles, they had to kind of intervene. They had to be there to kind of to make sure something happened. That's every 2 to 5 miles, and so there's something going on here. They're being investigated, but it's a shame. It's a real shame because we did think that Cruise was real deal. I do think that Waymo is a real deal, as far as I understand. Um, so we'll
It
see.
certainly
And
appears to be. And I have a lot more confidence in the engineers at Waymo because we know who they are than I do in, for example, Cruise, because they were built from nothing, where Waymo was built from inside of Google. Those are quality engineers. Maybe they don't have quite the high reputation they had 15 years ago, but they're still an absolute world leader in that sort of thing. It's like when there's a funny chart that Omar from Whole Mars Catalog recently shared again on X, where he was showing this. It was
yeah,
this old chart showing here's the leaders and the laggards, and Tesla is the laggard, and the leaders are Cruise, which is no longer doing it, Ford, which disbanded that division, and the one that came after it. They're on their third iteration since then, and Waymo, which I would argue is still right there at the top. And then, all the ones down, you've got all these amazing players. Half of, Uber, Lyft, they're gone. Comma AI, the CEO stepped down. And then yeah, way down at the bottom you've got Tesla, which never made sense if we're being honest. But Intel Mobileye, I think they have a chance because Mobileye had good engineers and good software before they had the full might of Intel behind them. And that becomes a pretty unstoppable sort of team, hopefully.
Yeah. It's important that we understand the details. And so when you hear that Mercedes has a level 3 autonomous, and then when you understand that they have to be under 40 miles an hour, they have to be following a car only in highways during certain time periods, then it's really not autonomy at that point. This is really, cruise control.
Yeah.
And then now that we know that some people, this is humans watching over this, and they can intervene. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. And this is
I actually just
it's
call that traffic jam assist because that's all it's good for.
traffic jam
Really.
assist. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's GM Cruise is now recalling. That's unfortunate. Then we'll see what happens there. Okay. So the next one, of course, is price hikes. So apparently the Model Y in Shanghai, this is weird, but they have announced that they're going to, not announce, but what's a couple of the sales representatives and even confirmed by Tesla themselves in Shanghai that they're about to do a price hike for the Model Y here in by tomorrow, if not tonight. It usually happens on Thursdays of our time in North America, but because it's happening in China, it might even happen earlier. I think it's about $2,000 of US dollars, and they had already done this with the premium the variant of the Model Y. So, what's your thoughts on that?
It's normal. It's the hotel pricing model. They know what prices things should be priced at. Those those performance and up optioned Model Ys are going to be sold somewhere at a markup. Those Model Ys can be sold in Canada and are. So I think they want the margin on them. We can move more units if we keep the price low, but we have enough supply and demand imbalance that we can raise the price. If people in China want to wait for the price to go back down, they can do that. But it just makes sense to go ahead and move that production to somewhere that actually can pay for it.
Yeah. So you and I just did a show. We're going to be dropping it in a couple hours here, talking about did this price drop indicate that there is a bottoming of the gross margins? Some investors are thinking that that's the case, and that's good news for us, because if they think that that's the case, they're going to feel more confident about investing in Tesla. When they do little price hikes, you and I think that it's just kind of like you said, the hotel pricing, they'll go raise up, they'll lower down. It may not, don't read too much into that. But that's very interesting that they announced it, And of course, they want to get as many people to buy the current price now, I guess. And so that's unusual that they.
Well, they are happy to sell them now, even though it's only November. The end of the quarter is already in sight. If a car is made next week, then it's, especially once you factor in holidays, you're getting real close to the end of the quarter if you have to put it on a ship. So I think it's great to get those orders in at a price that Tesla believed was acceptable yesterday, and that it would just work. So, there's in my chat, I'll point out there are a lot of really great puns surrounding poor little Cruise and all the various songs that come to mind. Let's see if I've got any here. There's Michael Jackson's "I Always Feel Like Somebody's Watching Me." There's "Someone to Watch Over Me." Let's see. Had a couple. I feel like there was some others.
Well, in my feed, there's a lot of people talking about Grok. So we need to talk about Grok. How important is Grok? So Grok was launched just a few days ago, I guess, right? By XAI, and they're using Dojo, which is owned by Tesla. And then
do we know they're using Dojo?
Oh, well, I was talking to Hans, and actually, what Hans said was that they may not be using Dojo. They actually, apparently, this is news to me. XAI is the second largest company to have bought NVIDIA chips directly from NVIDIA. So XAI themselves have been buying it. So whether they're using Dojo supercomputer or the Dojo chips, they're not using the Dojo chips. They've got their own. But it could also mean that they're using Dojo as a software as a service. Right. So We'll find out all that out. But the exciting part here is that, can you actually now talk to your car like, what Siri was meant to be, and the silly little feature that we have now in our cars where you have to press a button and it barely works sometimes and it works then. But the ability to communicate with your car to tell it what to do. And then just some fun ideas, right? Like, let's say if you're driving and you get to your destination and you go, oh, this is the wrong one, I want to go to the other McDonald's, you can just say it. It's like your own personal driver. And so while we were just talking about Cruise having a human backup there to take over, maybe this is Grok, who can
going the other direction. Going the other direction. So I do have a thought on that. Before I say that, I would like to remind everybody, if you're enjoying this, give it a thumb. Either direction doesn't bother me, just so that YouTube knows to show it to other people.
It bothers me.
The down thumb is decorative. Don't tell anybody. I was asked. Yeah. I was asked what would be the benefit of having, where's the benefit to Tesla of this XAI? And the first answer is these companies are all interwoven. When we saw Tesla engineers helping out with Twitter code base in the first week or two, a lot of people were furious, but they forget that all of these competencies come back into the ecosystem. So what could an AI assistant, an actually smart AI assistant, do for your car? One example I gave was when I back out each day, the hedge, it doesn't move, it's stationary. It is right next to the driveway and the chimes go off. You think we're having a meltdown with the controls freaking out, screaming at me, you're gonna crash. And I think after a week or two of that, it would be able to say, okay, as long as he's not getting closer to the hedge, I don't need to say anything because this is what we do every day. I think that would be helpful.
There's so many examples. I mean, for example, on my way home, I prefer the map will tell me to go a certain route, and I'm like, I actually feel like I want to go down the Lakeview route. So I just say, take the Lakeview, and then the other one would be, you need to do a U-turn. So let's do a U-turn now. Anyways, it's just like as if you have your own driver. Anything you might say to a driver, there's just so many things we haven't even thought about.
Take me to a supercharger that has restaurants within walking distance or in the same parking lot.
All right, you can probably tell it every time you drive by something that's a important landmark. Tell me a little bit facts about this place that I'm at.
Oh, that'd be interesting. What is that? Yes. What is that place next to me that I can see? What's that tower over there? I like all that.
This is too much. But anyway, so Grok is not only going to be for the car, it's going to be for the bot as well. And it sounds like it can actually happen sooner than later, because Tesla, Elon owns XAI, and of course he owns Tesla. Like you said, they work closely together. Just the way it works now, there's nothing. It's already valuable the way it is now.
And that's the crazy part is I had a comment on my Grok video saying, right, but it's not even as good as GPT-4. And I said, right. I said that in the video in case you didn't actually watch it and just commented instead. But not only that, but the fact that they were to get better than GPT 3.5 in 2.5 months is pretty remarkable. And it's because, like all things Elon does, he attracts the best talent available. Undercover EV suggests we could call it Groktimus. I don't know if that's going to be the top seller. Another suggestion was that, and I wanted to say it wrong on purpose because I thought it was kind of funny, is that that if it's too smart or if it's something, we would have to call it Spock. So I was like, why would I call it Spoke?
Spock. Okay. All right. So, I mean, there's so much we can do in Grok, but that's apparently on our list of things that happened, recent news. That seems to be one of the big ones. I think it has tremendous potential, right? So the other one that came out was Elon was at Giga Berlin, and he announced that the $25,000 car is going to be built there. In the earnings call, they'd already said that we may slow down our investment in Giga Mexico, but we can expand Giga Texas very easily. And we're already expanding Giga Berlin. And there was news, wasn't it, just 3 weeks ago that they'd already felt like they've passed the hurdles required for the government in Germany to approve the expansion. You could tell me more about that, but yeah.
Yeah, the preliminary permits were approved. They said, this is the piece of land. This is roughly what we're going to build on it. Here's all the obstacles. And the biggest one at that stage was water rights. And they said, we're not asking for any additional water, which made the comment period pretty quiet and the approval process thereafter painless. So they've got preliminary permits approved. Now, that's not the same as the permits themselves. But what we heard regarding Giga Mexico, Giga Nuevo Leon, was
Mhm.
that on the earnings call, they said the design for the facility is almost finished. So it's not the permitting that's holding up Mexico. It could be a number of things, but you have to submit a permit in order to get a permit. And if the design isn't finished, you can't do that. But I've been saying for months that Berlin makes sense because the land is clear, it's level, and all they need to do is start building. And the market for sedans, we've talked about this on your show a number of times, the market for sedans globally, for small sedans, is huge. They're the, you know, second, second best-selling car in, first, the best-selling car in Europe, and best-selling model in a number of countries because they're compact, they're useful. You don't need to, show off in that way.
So,
It,
can you answer
yeah,
this question for me, Brian? So, this is big news, of course. We were waiting to hear that officially they're going to build $25,000 compact cars in Germany. Why didn't they announce that they're going to do it in Giga Shanghai? Why would they not do
mm,
that even before Giga Germany? That's a shock to me. What's your
okay.
thinking?
So I have a couple thoughts. So the first thing is when we say 25,000, we're going to get angry comments saying it's 25,000 euros,
Euro.
but that includes the VAT, which is so. I mean that's 25,000 plus tax. In the U.S., we famously don't quote prices with tax, which is weird. So why? Because the land is already ready in Berlin, and we don't see any land available at Giga Shanghai.
Oh.
And they're sufficiently hostile to the drone pilots that we're unlikely to see anything.
Hostile, as in
Oh yeah.
laser
Oh,
guns?
they'll yes, they will take down your drone even if you're outside the perimeter, is what the drone pilots are saying. Jason Yang has lost two DJIs in the last 3
You're not
months, and he
kidding.
said,
I was just
"I'm not."
joking, but you're not
Oh
kidding.
yeah, he said, "I will not fly near Giga Shanghai anymore. Thanks for the journey. It's very sad."
Hmm.
And that's ridiculous. And then I posted it on X saying, Elon, can we fix this? And I had people attacking me. Tesla has every right. Okay, whatever. You don't have PR. These are your PR people. Okay, fine. But we've seen in Shanghai, when they build out facilities off site, they don't announce it until it's done. So when they built a supercharger factory, they didn't announce it until it was complete. And then a drone pilot went over and shot the outside of an empty, of a finished building. Not very exciting. So it could entirely be that the Model 2 could come first to Shanghai or China somewhere, that the factory is already half complete with the amount
Really?
of money. It's possible with the amount of money they spend on construction, who would notice an
Wow.
extra billion missing?
Wow, Brian, this is big news. Now, the other news that Grace Tao, Vice President of China's External Affairs, she was just interviewed 2 days ago, and she said that the mega pack factory that they're building in China is going to be, it's going to service the market globally, not just in China, which is another interesting tidbit that I wouldn't have expected. So, could they be building both a mega pack factory and, new production lines for the compact car at the same time? Or would they not?
100%. Why couldn't they? They could even be building them in the same place.
What?
It could be, like, why couldn't it be the same facility or the same property? So it's entirely possible that they could, yeah, be building one or two places at the same time.
It wouldn't be the
Uh,
same. My understanding for the Megapack factory is that it's the size of a Target. It's very small, and you don't need, just basically empty space, and it's pretty easy to create these battery
sure.
packs
But
as
you'd like to
opposed
have
to.
your engineers on site if possible. It
Mhm,
could be,
mhm.
typically battery factories are separate from the car factories, but we've seen in Austin and Berlin that they have built them on site just because having the expertise there, shortening the line from one thing to the other, getting all your shipping and logistics to one location, maybe that's easier. So I don't know. It's entirely possible, but we shall see. Uh,
Okay. Hmm.
Brad Sloan is in my chat, and he is one of the drone pilots in Texas, and he's pointing
Oh,
out that the Giga Texas building is expanding southward at this point. There's new footings that have been put in. It will expand the building by an eighth of a mile, uh, which is massive.
What is it?
And I've seen a lot of speculation that that could be where they would build a compact car, but I don't believe the footprint is sufficient to match the design philosophy that they've shared with us regarding Unboxed.
Okay. Okay, well, there's just so many news. All this news is coming, coming, coming. As Tesla people, we follow this so closely, but even us, it just like comes on and goes and comes and goes, and we forget. And that's what we're doing today, is reviewing so many of these news. Another bit was Alexander Mertz, Tesla Boomer Mama, was going through the Tesla career site, and she discovered quite a number of job openings for Tesla bot. First of all, there's some very interesting ones. One, it was Tesla bot night shift. So for some reason, they need to hire people to do night shifts and one weekend day. That was
You got to
interesting.
keep an eye on them.
I was speculating. I just did a show. This will be dropping this Sunday with Scott Walter. I'm speculating that maybe it's already working. Maybe there's already bots already doing it, and they're already doing 24 hours a day, and that's why you need somebody to keep an eye on them. The other term that they use, this their need to hire somebody, is called the triage. So again, something like it breaks. If something's broke, like a triage means to me that, it's like we go to triage care when we get sick and we need to get there, and then they have to decide who to fix it. And so it seems like it's already in production. That's a total guess on my part. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're still building it, but they're hiring people, night shifts, weekend shifts, different kinds of bot. And the other interesting news about those career pages that came out was it's not just humanoid bots. There was this reference to mobile bots. So there's a potential here that they're not only working on humanoid bots, there could be various kinds of bots that they're trying to build.
And I think the problem we have with the bot speculation is every time we've dreamed a little, we've dreamed too aggressively. And then we get, AI day 2 and we're like, yeah, I mean, that's cool, but I was kind of hoping for a miracle. And the miracle wasn't there.
Come on. Let me push back, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. We just saw a video drop that blew everybody away of it's not only his dexterity of his hands, but the intelligence of teaching it and being able to do it. Then you saw the video 2 months ago, and it was kind of like, it was still trying to, what I mean, the progress of these video drops is pretty impressive. And so, yes, in some cases we think that they're further ahead, but in many cases they're shocking us how quickly they're moving.
It would be, I would be shocked. That's correct. Yep.
So let me remind people that today is 2023, November, correct? And earlier this year, when they dropped that video, some of us, like Scott Walter or Randy Kirk, was going, I think there's going to be 1,000 bots by the end of this year. I think there's going to be 500 bots by the end of this year. Then when they did their earnings call, Elon said, well, we're actually still working on the actuators, and we think by November that we might be able to start scaling the actuator by when it's finalized by November. Guess what, Brian? It's November now. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we see drops of videos just a month ago, watching this bot being able to, balance, yoga, be able to do the hand movements. And so while we overshot what we thought just several months ago, in just a matter of few months, all of a sudden, we're now ready to scale probably by the beginning of this year. We see that the bot can do things. You can teach the bot things. And so it's like, yes, it's slow. Maybe we missed it, but actually it's happening much faster. It's the same friggin' year.
All fair. I would, we've had a lot of delays are the norm, not the exception. The Model S and X were supposed to be down for 2 weeks for retooling, and that turned into months and, a year. But then you've got, the Roadster, which is stuck in limbo. You've got the Semi, which we thought they were going to start expanding that factory and getting ramped up in January. And here we are almost a year later, and there's no movement on the ground. So it's tough. It's tough.
Okay, well, actually, if you break that down, I think the biggest problem that we had was the delay in 4680. That's the one that had the greatest impact to Tesla's progress. The Semi, It's sad, but I was never one that was that excited about the semi anyways. Cybertruck is a big deal. That was slowed down quite a bit. My point is that take a look at the progress with energy.
Oh
Energy
yeah.
is hitting its mark. It's exactly what we were thinking would be. It's now the highest margin. They're expecting it to grow exactly as they've been planning. And so it seems like the megapack factories have been announced. The growth, I think there was some slowdown in terms of how many megawatts they thought that they'd have by now, but it's still progressing quite quickly. And then the bots. These are the two biggest things, energy and the bots. And then FSD, now that they've announced that they can do it version 12, which shocked all of us that it could possibly be the next step change. Those three are more important than all the other things that has been issued. Anyways, yes,
Okay, you
there's
ready for the
issues.
pushback? You
Oh
ready for
yeah,
the pushback? Megapacks are easy to build. They're easy to deploy.
right.
They don't have moving parts apart from the cooling fans. They're pretty easy. Uh, then the next one you said was what was the next? Oh well, the
Bots and
what was the
FSD.
next one? Oh,
Bots.
FSD. It's
Hmm.
version 12, but it isn't out, and we don't even know when it will be out.
Hmm.
And we're told it's good, but we've been told that about every version before it,
Okay.
that this one is really the one. So
Yeah.
I can't count it until it's out. And then, but the bot is very complicated. It's got not just a lot of moving pieces, but in terms of what it does, it has infinite moving pieces. Uh, and so I don't know.
No, I
I
know.
think it's going to be a
Right.
tough nut to crack.
Yeah. He was very reluctant to say anything about the bot at the earnings call, so that could also be delayed for sure. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
go down my list of the things that
Yeah.
recent news that we covered. We talked about Tesla winning that lawsuits with the FSD. We didn't really talk about it,
Mhm.
but you and I covered it before. GM Cruise is recalling their cars. The price hikes for the Model Y is coming tonight, tomorrow for the in China. Uh, 25,000 dollar car in Germany was announced. We talked about Grok. What we haven't yet talked about yet is Giga Shanghai 30 seconds, Tesla holding company in Spain, and India is going to meet with Elon. And did we already talk about BP partnering?
No.
So these are things that just happened in the last month, right? 3 weeks. I mean, just things
Well, tell
flying.
me about the Spain holding company because I had not heard.
Oh, is there something I know that you didn't know, Brian?
Yes. Yes. I'm getting
it's
brighter.
it could be meaningless, but yeah, I'm reporting on this with Jan. We there was a report, and it's real, that Tesla opened a holding company in Spain so that they can buy companies, issue shares, create businesses not only in Spain but also foreign to Spain, so other parts of Europe probably, and because of favorable tax. So it's kind of like why Spain, and then Jan, who's based in Germany, was saying that Spain is. He still believes that Spain's going to be a site for some sort of factory.
Hmm.
Um, but anyways, just because they put the holding company there doesn't mean it's going to be a factory of any kind. It's just that everybody's reaching out to Tesla, trying to give them tax incentives. So it's just I think of it like almost like how in Apple they have the Ireland corporation based in Ireland so that they can have tremendous tax savings,
Huge.
0% tax. And so
Yeah.
that's maybe, I don't know, we're reading too much into it, but they created a holding company. It just means to me that there's progress in Europe. Giga Berlin seems to be expanding, like we said, and uh, and I don't think that they're going to open up another factory except for megapack factories. Just again, given Elon's statements about not investing extra factories, they'll expand Giga Berlin. They might announce megapack factories in some of these countries in Europe. Uh, but
Yes. And I agree with you on that. I don't think an automobile factory is coming to Spain imminently or anywhere else in Europe imminently. Not when we just heard that Berlin will be expanded first. I think that would be too much to bite off at one time. And the other thing is on the slowdowns. We were talking about this earlier. Elon said, "Well, we have to slow down and be cautious." I didn't take that as actually slowing down, but rather being more cautious, because what I see happening. And remember, this guy is as close to a time traveler as we're going to get. When he said, "I'm not going to let you buy the Model 3 off you at the end of your lease, but we want to take it back for robotaxi. What we didn't know was at the end of those 3 years, there would be a huge shortage of new cars across the industry. And Tesla was able to take those cars back and resell them for a very high markup, even though they were used cars, because the market was so short. That was a huge revenue stream. And then you've got, so I think what could happen is these factories will be built, and right around the time that they're finished and it's time to start ramping, we'll see interest rates coming back down to a reasonable point. The economy will be more secure and stable, and consumer confidence will be higher, and Tesla alone may be well poised to capitalize on it once again.
I
So
have
I
a
think
more
that's,
nuanced answer
let's
to
hear
whether
it.
or not Elon said that we're going to have a slowdown in the earnings call. He absolutely said that. He's absolutely concerned. But if you break down what Tesla's really doing, is they're not going to invest in a net new, brand new factory in Mexico. They're going to slow that down because that's where you're going to burn cash like a furnace, he said, right? But they're going to go ahead and increase expansion in Berlin, expansion in Texas. They spent quite a bit of time talking about that. And guess what? They expanded, not reduced, how much money they're spending. It used to be 7 to 9 billion, and then they announced it's going to be now more than 9 billion this year. So
Yeah.
they saved 3 billion, and then they're going to expand their expenditure. It's just that they doesn't want to get caught in something like a factory that could kill, or it won't kill Tesla, but it can be there. You know, you can get caught if everything starts to fall and demand drops. But this is where they're investing in, you know, Dojo, right? They've expanded that in announcement too. And then the car, anyways, the Model 2 announcement, the $25,000 car announcement in Giga Berlin, I think is a big deal. It's a big deal for him to have stepped up
Absolutely.
there, tell the employees, we're going to build a $25,000 car here. It means that they're still moving forward with that. And
Yeah.
as opposed to, why would I say it today if it's, you know, a year or 2 years delayed? So,
And right. And I wouldn't, again, on the long time scale, you and I are long term investors. None of this daily stuff matters.
yeah, it
So
matters.
D
Just kidding. Just kidding.
so DS Greg wants to know, wants us to talk about the BP deal.
Yeah. Okay. So that one is about 2 weeks ago. So I kind of forgot about it. It's like these things fall. All right. So this is a big deal. I asked this question to, you know, a bunch of my friends, and is this a big deal? And some people said not really, because it's not going to benefit Tesla that much. It's just supercharger sales, hardware supercharger sales. It's not going to benefit BP that much just because it's $100 million worth. It's a, you know, a bucket. But for me, it's like it's symbolically important. This is a large, mega, worldwide, global oil and gas industry company realizing that they need to partner with Tesla to buy Tesla superchargers and place them in the gas stations. Now, they said that they have $1 billion, which is again a drop in the bucket for them. It could just be all talk. But here's an oil and gas company realizing that if you own gas stations, which they do globally, BP, that gas stations could eventually, you know, die. And these are typically owned by mom and pop owners. They don't make money on the gas. They make money on the convenience store sales that they do. And so, you know, they're going to hedge their bets. They're going to put superchargers there. People who go to the supercharger at your gas station can now go into the stores. You're waiting longer. You're going to spend more money. So why don't they test this out? And then they look good, right? They go, oh, we're an oil and gas company. We're actually an energy company, and we're going to have superchargers here. And I think it's also really critical that the first company to do this, it goes into people's minds, and they realize it's BP. That, oh, if I go to BP, they likely have a supercharger, not, you know, the other Shell or whatever, Chevron. Just like right now, when you think about rental cars, you're thinking Hertz because they made that first announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your thoughts?
Well, when you say $100 million investment, what I hear you saying is they didn't spend 500 million buying it from someone else, because that would have been a $500 million acquisition if they got the hardware from one of their rivals. And it wouldn't have been as good, because we've seen that Tesla's ability to bring down prices on supercharging hardware is second to none. There is no close competitor in that field. And my concern with the business model entirely is most gas stations are not corporate owned but franchise owned. So that money that's being spent inside is all going to the local company and not to BP itself.
Yeah.
BP's making their money on the gas. So I don't know how much they're going to have to mark it up for it to make it make sense. Or if this is just something they're doing to make their franchise owners happier, surely they would put them in, charge the franchise owner something for it so they're getting their cut. And the franchise owner would undeniably benefit because, like you said, when you get there, you're going to use the bathroom, you're going to buy a snack, you're going to maybe have lunch at their little Subway shop or whatever it is they have inside. People spend money when they stop. That's just how travelers are, especially people who have a dollar or two to spare, which most Tesla owners, I would argue, do. So
yeah,
this is, this is good overall. Make no mistake, this is good.
that's big. So Larry Goldberg reminded me, and he shared a slide that Tesla shared at one of their presentations, that their ability to create superchargers is it's ridiculous, like 50% or 70% cheaper than anybody else. So no other company is going to buy anybody else's supercharger. That's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. And what does this represent? It represents the first small partnership. But what happens once that first partnership happens? Everybody comes on board. So
the dominoes fall,
mark
like we've
my words. We're going to hear. I'm waiting for Walmart, Costco, McDonald's. I think we heard Hilton already say it, right? They already mentioned that they're going to build chargers.
20,000, I think.
Yeah. So we're going to hear this. It's going to be just a barrage of these. Now, they may or may not say it's a partnership with Tesla. They may say it's just a charger that can charge anybody. But the more likely is that they will partner with Tesla. It will be Tesla superchargers. Now that you saw the BP said, I'm going to buy, this is the first deal where they said, I'm going to buy your hardware. Now, we don't know yet what cut, like you were saying, each person gets. But I don't think Tesla cares so much about the actual revenue. They just want to have as many superchargers out there for once and for all. Like every time you see like this, it just this idea that there's not enough superchargers out there, and so it's just going to be like once you hear Walmart say it or McDonald's say it, then
and you're right that when Tesla wants more chargers out there and more good, reliable chargers, which Tesla can manage. That's an expectation
that somebody's paying for.
Well, yes, and that someone's paying for. And when you and I go on a road trip, if we see, there's a BP with electric chargers,
that's what I'm saying.
We will have that expectation of quality that is, equal. It's the Kirkland brand, the Kirkland signature. It's still Grey Goose. You're going to get the same product and it's going to be consistent.
So. Okay. Grey Goose, Kirkland brand. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. I mean, so these are like small things that are happening. They didn't make a move to the stock, but they all build up, right? So we've got BP partnering. The other one I wanted to ask you was this news that Indian Commerce Ministry is going to meet with Elon. So this is weird, right? So we know that there was a lot of news about India. You know so much about it. You've done this deep dive research on, is India a good country to do gigafactories? We saw lots of news. He actually met with the prime minister there. Then all of a sudden it became nobody talking about it anymore. Nothing happened. Then a week ago, we heard news that something like to this effect. There was reports saying that the Indian government is doing everything they can to clear every kind of regulation issues that Tesla must have. And I thought, okay, yeah, whatever. You can do whatever you want. I just dismissed that news. And then just now, yesterday, they said that he's actually going to meet. Elon's going to actually fly there and meet somebody there. What's going on, Brian?
So there's a deal breaker that you have to incorporate, that you have to consider. One is that the India has said you have to build everything here and you can't come early. You can't import cars just to test the market. And normally Tesla would say, okay, then we're done here. Except that if Tesla wants to dip their toes in the water, there's no charging infrastructure. So if Tesla's going to make a move into India, they would need to go all in. They'd need to build chargers. They'd need to deploy megapacks to deal with grid instability. And it's going to be expensive. So what India is saying is, look, if you will come here, and localize parts. We'll give you some time to localize parts. We saw that you did it in China. I think they can believe if we say you've got 1 year or 2 years to get your parts localized, that they can have confidence that will happen. And you can put penalties if they don't. But I think what India was seeing is they're only getting offers from runners up, and Tesla is a prestige brand. India is growing. It is becoming more prosperous every day. They've got so many educated people they've got thousands of engineering universities, and these people need the kind of jobs you can only get from world leaders. So having Tesla there, even if they gave them a 10-year tax abatement, which I don't think they would need to do, China didn't do it, they would still come out ahead, because this is going to create jobs. It's going to create opportunities. It's going to push the domestic competition to get better and do it quick. And I think it's just going to, that will help everyone.
I just dropped a video this morning about a Chinese newscaster who was given permission to go to a tour of Giga Shanghai. And she interviewed some of the key experts, the minister, but also some experts in Shanghai. And they said two things that are very excitingly interesting. One was that China, of course, as you know, they gave Tesla 100% foreign ownership. They've never done that before. They didn't require Tesla to be owned by the Chinese government. 99.9% of all the suppliers are local to China. So China benefits because it's great jobs for not only Tesla, but also for those companies. But then they also said that the Chinese automakers, the Chinese EV automakers have benefited from learning from Tesla. So that was something that we always knew that did the government feel that way? They apparently do, that the Chinese automakers themselves are learning from Tesla. And so that's one of the benefits. And finally, they said that when EVs were just first introduced in China, there was actually a lackluster interest. But Tesla's Model 3 was what sparked the interest by the consumers, realized that you can have quality electric vehicles, that they work, that they're good cars. And then that opened up the market for all these Chinese brands to sell. If Tesla wasn't there, apparently, that was a big deal. So my thinking would be that India needs to do what China did, which is tell Tesla you can have 100% ownership. We're not going to do export import taxes, whatever that protectionism that traditionally India has. They want to do what China did, which is become a global export of auto, which they don't have. They don't have an auto industry today, and there's an opening. So I think of any country here, India themselves is probably just, you know what, we need to do this, and we're going to just bite the bullet and do whatever we need to do.
I would clarify that it was 99.9% of employees, but 95% of parts. And I don't know if that's, I don't believe that's by, it's still an outrageous amount.
Supply parts. Somebody hit me on that earlier, and I was going, what? I'm pretty sure I heard. So I was wrong. Okay.
And the point on that is that 95% of the parts by count or by value? And I think it's by value, and that the only part that they're really importing is the FSD chip, because that's not made in China, I don't believe. I think that's made in...
Oops. Let's not get political.
Yeah, let's not get political.
Made in China.
I mean, that's only made in Fremont, I think. Let's not get our visas revoked. But no, I think there's very few parts that can't be made in China, and we've seen that that's the case. And in India, they have a domestic car market. They have domestic tech. They have domestic manufacturing. And if you say, well, yeah, but this is still going to be only for even a $25,000 car would only be for the very, very rich. Well, the top 2% of India makes up 28 million people. This factory is not going to be making 28 million cars. And it can also be an export hub for the region, for the hemisphere, really. So there's, these were the same complaints that we heard about China, that that the politics is too different, that the business philosophy is too different, that the local economy. Well, if you looked at how many EVs were sold in China, that video that you showed on your channel, the EV market in China kind of didn't exist yet, just like it kind of doesn't exist in India today. So there's big opportunities.
I want to be cheeky if I can, if you allow me, Brian. I have deep respect for you, but I just want to be cheeky a little bit, okay? You just contradicted yourself, buddy.
Uh-huh.
in the
What'd I
same
say?
show. Well, you said earlier, we talked about it. Tesla's not going to invest in a net new factory. They're going to, be careful with the recession. And now you're telling me that they're going to invest in a factory in India. It's not going to happen, man.
Oh, mm. Yeah, it's still I would say it's still less than 50% chance. But we do believe that they've said that they would announce a second location. But I said they wouldn't. I didn't say. I will clarify and say I don't see a benefit to putting a second different location in Europe. But India is
Agreed.
geographically far removed and a market in which they currently have no presence and cannot attain a presence unless they build a
Mm-hmm.
factory. And I know other countries have been told, hey, maybe you could just get them to build a megapack factory. And I think
Right.
it was Indonesia that said, nope, nope, it's all or none, baby. We want the whole thing. And
Gotcha. No, I think they're all desperate at this point. Okay, so we've covered quite a bit here. Let's see, what else am I missing? Well, Giga Shanghai, there was the announcement now that it's 30 seconds. So Grace
yeah,
Tao, who's the VP of External Affairs for Tesla, she's the face of Tesla, was interviewed this weekend, and she clarified that every 30 seconds in a production line in Giga Shanghai, they can produce a car now. This is 10 seconds more than what we heard them announce 6 months ago, because they were saying, so the guy was being interviewed and he said, oh, I hear that your cars can now come out 45 seconds. And then the Tesla representative in the factory said, actually, it's 40 seconds. And now I hear 30 seconds. And they
wow,
said that 100%, okay, I got to be careful. Maybe they said close to 100% of the welding, the segment of their factory is now all automated.
wow,
And then humans only, so every time the industrial robots are doing the welding, um, they're connected to a centralized computer, and all the humans doing is monitoring those processes to make sure that it's all going well. They're no longer in the actual welding facility. So that was apparently a big deal.
wow. That's crazy. So does that mean that Giga Shanghai makes as many cars in a week as Lucid makes in a quarter? Poor Lucid. They're in having some tough times, but
Well, we shouldn't.
uh,
And again, I laugh because you made a joke, but
right.
I agree with many people. I
I'm
don't want the pure EVs to die. I want
right.
the pure, because I believe, as many do, as we recognize, only the pure EV companies have the chance to succeed. And I
Yeah.
just don't think that any of the other legacy auto is going to be able to make it, because they're, it's just the way it is, right? You're encumbered with your old cars, and this is not just simply manufacturing the same car but put a battery on it like people thought. Or they used to say, remember, oh, all it
Yeah.
is just a car that you put an iPad, slap an iPad and you've got a Tesla. That's what they used to say. Now they've
Ah,
realized it's not the case. Toyota announced, what is it, 6 months ago? They said that, oh, all of our previous announcements where we told you that our factories will now have the same production line, and I can build you an electric vehicle, hybrid, or even a hydrogen car, all in the same production line. Then they pulled back and says, oops, we realize that we can't do that. So we're going to have to, the numbers, right? Invest
right. And
billions of
it's
dollars. It's the same amount of money to retrofit an existing factory than it is just to build a new factory, is what they're saying.
yes, yes. And the fact that Corey Steuben is there at
Mm,
Lucid gives me hope.
yeah.
But his title is something like Chief Design of Midsize, which means he's not working on fixing the air. He's not working on the gravity. Now, clearly, we will see his fingerprints on both of those cars in some regard. At least I hope so. I believe the transition, the announcement that they're switching to North American Charging Standard, was certainly something Corey would have pushed them for, because Corey is a very sharp guy and he understands these trends perhaps better than the folks at Lucid. So I think I am hopeful that they're able to survive. My concern is less that they would be able to get more money from the Saudis. My concern is more that anyone who has invested before today would face a substantial write down on their investment. If the Saudi PIF decided to take them private today, even with a 30% premium, great, take today's price, add 30%. Does that make you whole on your Lucid investment? Because I know a lot of people bought it all the way down, even to today's money, even to today's prices, believing that it's going to go back to 10, 20, $100 a share. And once it's bought out, your investment days are done. You're no longer part of the story.
Yeah. I've got another bit of news that I think few people know about BYD. And so this reminded me. Faisal's Adventure says, everyone, including Elon, used to laugh at BYD. I don't remember Elon ever laughing at BYD. He always says, be careful about the Chinese. And very recently, he actually tweeted out or posted on X saying that the Chinese are really the real competitors. Now they're kicking ass. Their exported BEVs are selling at high profit margin. And it's very, very true. I don't know about the high profit margin. So let's break that down. What we understand is that let's talk BYD specifically. So BYD and the other Chinese automakers are doing incredibly well in China. So much so that the European brands, one by one, are either investing in a Chinese auto brand or actually, striking deals where the Chinese would create the electric vehicle and then the like Volkswagen would just put their badge on and sell it globally. Okay. These automakers in China have ambitions to go global, so they've started to make beachheads in Europe. When he said that they have high profit margins, I think you might be referring to the fact that in Europe, in a way to enter Europe, they decided to go with the premium level cars first because they don't want to be viewed by the European consumer as the cheap brand. They want to eventually get there, but at first impression, they wanted to show that. So they're only sending out the higher price cars. And so that's what they think. So yes, they've made inroads. They're there. The problem is, and I've got a chart that I showed, and again, I apologize to people, I keep referring to previous videos, but there's this chart that showed the S&P Global shared that in the last several years, you can see the Chinese export of their BEVs growing from a small number to getting bigger and bigger. But guess what they project for 2024?
Flat?
Zero.
Wow.
Why? Because in Europe, there is a big push for an anti-subsidy probe. So they're basically want to shut down any imports from China to the cars. Now, there's several concerns about this, right? I just mentioned that many European companies are partnering with the Chinese because the European brands, the German ones, they need them. And then now so this can be muddy, right? Politics and lobbying, what happened. But this is what BYD just did. They just announced this week. They're launching a factory in Hungary. And they believe that they can launch this factory as fast as, did they say Giga Shanghai? So they think in 2 years, they'll be able to have this up and running. And so I was talking to Jan about it. Again, it's based in Germany. He said the Hungary is a Eastern European country. It's in but out of the Euro Union. And so they have ability to, they're basically desperate. They're willing to, give whatever they need to give to have BYD create a factory there. They have a lot more, easier to create laws and get away around laws. But BYD creating a factory in Europe is the way to get around this anti-subsidy probe. So yeah, no, they're a big deal. And I don't know, I don't remember Elon ever saying they laughed at BYD.
Someone in my comments said that very early on, Elon may have made a disparaging remark about BYD. But if it was very early on, BYD wasn't serious yet. They were just a battery company that had made some cars. The big thing I always try to point out is there are cheap cars in China because they're built to a different standard. And a lot of times, once you increase all those standards, all the safety, all the creature comforts, all of a sudden it's no longer a cheaper car. You can't, somebody posted a picture of the BYD Seal and showed the Chinese market version versus the European market version, and it was a different car. It was longer. It looked substantially different because it was a different car. And the proof to that is, if it was easy to export, if all you had to do was build it in China and sell it in Europe, MG would already be the best-selling car in Europe. Tesla exports Model 3s and previously Model Ys from Shanghai to China and sells them at a fantastic margin. But if they were to cut that to, bargain basement Chinese prices, there'd be no margin. So the idea that just making it in China is going to automatically make it cheaper doesn't always hold up when so much of what goes into a car is the raw material and robots. Those are going to cost the same. More, they're going to cost about the same anywhere you go. You will get cheaper headlights in China than the ones you get here, which are Chinese and imported from China. But and we do make a lot of those things domestically. There is a lot of parts manufacturing that's still in the US and Mexico and Canada. So it's I don't agree with the premise that just because it's from China means it's going to be cheaper.
Yep. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, they're a force to be reckoned with. One last news. I'm sure we missed many, and I'll go through the list that we just did. One last news that just came yesterday. The Chinese government created an 18-page outline saying that they are going to make a major push for humanoid robotics. They need it to become a growth driver for China, and their forecast is crazy. They want to have at scale by 2025, and they want to have global dominance by 2027. And they're going to be supporting companies and creating kind of standards for pushing humanoid robots. It's not only going to be a growth driver for their economy, but it's an existential threat because they are the manufacturing hub of the world. They need to, if you know, Amazon, that's another bit of news that happened with this now maybe 3 weeks ago, that they are testing digit humanoid bots to move pick and place packages. And so, you know, if Tesla is successful with humanoid bots, then you can basically create a factory anywhere. You don't have to do the China anymore because of their low cost human workers. And then, so it's an existential threat, but this is a big deal. So you have a government coming out and saying, we need to make this work. And so I really hope that our government is going to support other humanoid robots, companies, especially Tesla, promoting them, supporting them, helping them make, you know, find ways. And by the way, you can tax these humanoid robots. I interviewed CERN Basher, and he did this whole analysis, and he included a 30% tax. And even then, it's massively profitable for Tesla. But even if the governments and the cities tax humanoid bots 30%, then you could take that money and create a social safety net, you know, as workers get displaced. And it's still going to be very, very cost effective. So,
and I've seen people say, why would Tesla work on this? This is going to, you know, destroy jobs. Everyone's working on it. The question is, who would you rather have doing it? And I know a lot of people feel that Elon is just plain evil. And I don't see it that way. If he wanted to do evil people things, the companies he's created don't align with that goal, in my view. And he was the first person and the most vocal business and thought leader to call out the demand, the necessity for a human bill of rights against robots, as it were, against AI, and that we need to be careful of what it's capable of before it's too late. And I'm not sure that that has necessarily, I don't know if it's possible, but it's certainly something that people have not worked on very aggressively.
great comments here from the audience. All right, so let me just review everything we did. I bet you this is not even the whole list. I honestly just jotted this down in seconds before we started. Here's the list that we covered, right? We talked about Tesla winning the lawsuit at FSD. That was a big deal. I think they also now clarified, didn't they, that the automaker is responsible? In this one, they did not.
Okay. In the UK, they've said that
the UK,
if FSD crashes, you're on the manufacturer's on the hook.
Yeah, but in this case, it was not, because Tesla's system is very much human controlled, operated. GM Cruise is recalling their cars. Not only did they suspend their business there, there's price hikes that's going to happen, confirmed by Tesla, Model Y in China. Does that mean that there's a bottoming of auto gross margins now? BP partnered with Tesla, $100 million to buy superchargers. Indian Commerce Ministry is going to be meeting with Elon very shortly. Tesla created a holding company in Spain. Elon announced that in Germany that they're going to be building a $25,000 car there. They also clarified that Giga Shanghai now can spit out a car every 30 seconds. Grok making some big waves. It's probably not as good as ChatGPT and the other large language models yet, but just the short period of time that they were able to get this up and running is great. But again, what matters more is not that it's better, faster. It's the fact that Tesla now, Elon, has a conversational AI plus real world vision. And then all the other companies, they have a conversational AI. And he was saying that it will take them so much longer to get the vision real world AI than it is for Tesla to create or Elon to create conversational AI. And that's why it matters, because you need both to be able to communicate to your bot and to your car. We talked about Grok. We talked about BYD making a move in Hungary. Uh, so,
There,
my point being that so much news is happening every day. We don't see it in the stock appreciation or stock movement, but these things build up, and it just means that progress is happening. So,
and again, in the long term, in the short term, what moves stock is who knows everything. But what moves it in the long term is execution. And I cannot find another company that executes at this level in the way that I've seen it. And it gives me tremendous confidence in just the whole thing. So I'm as excited as ever, maybe more excited.
thank you, Brian. So, Brian and I co host this live stream every Wednesday. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Write us some notes. Tell me what we're missing. There's so many good news. Thanks, everybody.